Welcome to That Davis Show. I am Kenneth Davis. Follow me at That's Davis. Always fortunate enough to be joined by Ryan Bukovetsky. Follow him at Ryan B. Ski and Ryan B. Ski 1 on Instagram. Ryan, how's your trip to California, bro?
It was very nice. It was nice to actually get exposed to the rolling hills of LA and California. I was texting you. I think it might be the move. I think we gotta get out there in California.
Dude, we've been talking for years. I told you in text that was the place after and I both, when we first started talking, we're like, wait, I was like, yeah, I want to go to Cali after school. She said the same thing. And then we came home and took care of our folks and never made it. I mean, we went on trips, but we never made it to stay. And it was funny. We was talking like a couple weeks ago and we was like, yeah, we think our kids are like Cali kids. It'd be like, it doesn't seem like it'd be a crazy adjustment. Maybe from a superficial standpoint, perhaps. But what did you do out there?
So I got in Friday night. We had a very sketchy Airbnb. I'll tell you that.
What do you mean? How is the Airbnb very sketchy?
It's like
location or what it's
location. Basically, we saw the pictures of all the Airbnb and everything, and it didn't look at all like what it was in real life.
Whoa.
And maybe the place itself kind of did. We were under a different assumption of where it was, the building itself. Like, let's say the room, if you just aesthetically looking at it, was maybe like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. The building was probably a 5 or a 4 out of 10.
Ooh,
like
wow.
Bare wood staircases that needed to be stained or painted, but yet there's still little fleckles of paint all over the place.
Right.
These really random like decoration, like shades over the main hallway lamp, like some were from the 70s, some were from a different decade. And then just the neighborhood we were at, it just kind of felt more so like, this is not a place you come to for a vacation. This is a place you choose to live. Well, we had an old RV man who was living in his RV a block away. This gentleman, or what we believe a gentleman, could have been a woman. Don't know. Okay. Never saw the person. Just saw a lot of rumbling in and out of the RV. When I was parking the car, there was another car that had like almost the Tommy Boy cardboard door that didn't close all the way, that had been converted into like a house. And again, didn't know if someone was living there, except for when I was driving by looking for parking, it was clearly somebody was like trying to keep their door closed. So it was there was no elevator. We were on the 4th floor. There was only 4 floors. It's like a converted hotel. There was an elevator, I guess, but man, that thing looks straight out of the first elevator ever built. We were not trusting that thing at all. And apparently the coworker went, maybe was getting hit on by some dude within the hotel. Like, hey, why don't we, well, I shouldn't say hotel. It's like, it's a hotel converted into apartment buildings. Hey, you want me to show you how the elevator works? And trying to pull him in there. Like, you can only fit 2 people on that elevator max, too. So it was a sketch, to say the least. We both were like, this is sketchy.
Wow. How much did it cost?
Well, it was pretty cheap, I guess, overall. I don't want to say cheap, as in we knew it was going to be bad, but it seemed a more of a steal, but within the ballpark of pricing. But it really like affirmed, man, that LA struggle because of pricing. This place didn't even have a full-on kitchen. Just almost, it was really like a motel room almost. Like you were in a hotel that was converted into a studio. They had a kitchen sink. That was the sink. Or no, a bathroom sink, and that was it.
Whoa. Damn. And you didn't think you had a story to tell? That part alone is a story to tell.
I didn't know if it was a full episode, but I did have some stuff to say about it. We're watching Selling Sunset. I started that show thinking like, well, this might be something I can get into. I like really crappy reality TV shows. I am not into The Selling Sunset. Just a little too much. It was almost like one of my favorite crappy dating shows combined with something on HGTV like Love It or Listed or House Hunters
I love
kind
Love It
of
or
thing.
Listed.
Me too, except they
But see, the
always love
problem
it.
is they
never
always
list
love
it.
it. They
Yeah.
list it like
Shit would piss me off.
10% of the damn times. It's like, list
If
that
that.
son of a bitch.
Right. Can we get some listing over here? Oh, no renovation. We don't want to actually move. This is great. Everything we need.
Right. It's like, list that bitch is better. That place is better. Stop it. All right. Like, right by the ocean.
End up going to Sunset Boulevard in real life. Those houses on the hills, boy, that's no joke. That is no joke out there.
Yeah.
These people living out there. Yeah, it's different too. Had no LA traffic whatsoever. I was shocked by that. No traffic at all.
I feel like if you've been in Chicago, traffic is cap for the most part. You know what I'm saying?
I'm starting to see that too, because everybody keeps saying like Arizona was the same thing. Oh man, this Arizona traffic. I never hit traffic.
Right. It's
maybe once or twice.
Now again, maybe but now I've been on the 405 during traffic hours, I believe, when I was out there. But like for the most part, it's like if you can be on a Dan Ryan on a bad day and not move whatsoever. So if you've been wherever, it's capped to a certain degree.
I'm with you on that. Chicago to me has been the worst. Yeah, we had a couple nice places. Tu Madre was a place we went to. It was nice. Didn't see any celebrities, but overall just kind of a chill weekend out in California.
Okay. That's dope. That's good times. And now Cancun is coming up next, right?
Yes. Getting ready for Cancun. That's going to be much needed. I'm going to be sleeping a ton. Going to be relaxing a ton. Got to get this mind and body right, especially still dealing with this sickness. I cannot even believe it. I'm going to have to see the doctor when I get back.
What's wrong?
I have some kind of infection going on. I thought it was going away, but it just will not go away. I'm pretty sure it's just a sinus infection.
Okay.
But something along those lines, maybe upper respiratory. I don't know. But I cannot lose like the few symptoms I have. So might have to see the old doctor when I get back, but I don't have time before that. Maybe I just need some that Mexico sun to save me from my illness.
Maybe so. All right. So this is our Bears draft recap show for Ryan and my thoughts on the Bears draft that commenced last Friday and Saturday, because Thursday we didn't have any first round picks. I'm sure we all know the players that were drafted and all of the undrafted free agents. Ryan, let's get your thoughts. I've been a little bit all over the place, so people kind of heard my thoughts. Listen, I'm tired. I'm still draft drained, to be quite frank.
I'm sure.
Like, it was a lot of work. Shout out to Tony, Daddy Wasaki, and particularly Alex Brown, man, for all the work and the fun times that we definitely had on the Under Center podcast for NBC Sports. Michael Allardyce and Alex Shapiro too. But listen, my guy went all right in the second round.
I was very upset about that one as well.
We have a text thread, Tony, Eric Strobel, and Alex Shapiro, and myself. And Alex Shapiro was working at Hallis Hall, and he's like, "You guys gone, Ken?" And this is before it was announced, and I'm like, "Did you hear or something already? Do you know?" No, because I'm still holding out all forms of hope that I can hold out. Right? Please.
I love the attitude that you have towards Alex in this text message. Like, do you know, sir?
Totally. Like, did someone say something there? Right? So clearly everyone in the room knew, like, oh, yeah, they're going for Christian Watson, right? Because I'm sitting there like, oh, snap. How everything's falling off. Mostly everybody has taken a wide receiver, and it's the people behind us that really need wide receivers. So perhaps now I'm trying to find out what Ryan Pose's grade was on Christian Watson, right? Like, right? And I'm like, I don't think he had him graded as high as I do. Let me full disclosure, right? I've said it, and then it's funny I went on the Tape Never Lies, and I came in hot, and they had NFL Network's Adam Rank on there, and it was just like they were just going in on me, and I'm like, listen, I've opened up with this is my bias. I'm being irrational. All right, I want this. This is for me. All right, look, I'm going team measurables here. This is what I want. Right, he may be a bust. This is what I want. Right. So that was shout out to those guys. It was definitely a great time. But Christian Watson went like 4 picks prior to the Green Bay Packers jumped up. And then before we start recording, fucking AB goes, man, so you're gonna get to see your guy, huh?
You'll see him for sure.
Right. Everybody around knows I'm opining for Christian Watson, right? Christian Watson was gone, and the Bears selected Kyler Gordon, someone we saw in a ton of mock drafts. If he was there, the Bears were selected to take him or Smith, the offensive tackle Smith, right? Listen, I thought it was a good selection, to be honest with you. I think the first 3 picks, particularly the first 2, Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, I think they're going to be some dogs for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the Bears secondary went from suspect to now Eddie Jackson needs to step his ass up, to be honest with you. It's kind of how I feel. Now, of course, he's more worldly when it comes to the game, knowledgeable, I should say, in football than these young men. But still, you guys, we know Jalen Johnson is a dog. You know what I'm saying? Brisker's a dog, and Kyler Gordon's going to serve you up. And he's a dog too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these guys are athletic and mean, and that's what you really want to see. These guys put their face in the fan. And then Calais Jones, we'll see. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he got me hyped. I'll tell you that much. Calais Jones got me amped with his post draft presser when he was just talking about his foundation and his father and his grandfather and his faith. How his father taught him, the first man can't bring you down. I think Calais Jones is going to be interesting. I don't know if he's going to be a surefire home run hitter, but I thought it was a good draft, to be honest with you. Everything what I wanted, they didn't acquire. I understand that because they may not have had the same value on those other receivers as we did. I had Alec Pierce perhaps as a 3rd rounder, to be honest with you. So when the run went Pickens, Pierce, and Moore, what was left, to be honest with y'all? You know what I'm saying? As far as the guys that were going to make a difference on the outside, so am I upset they didn't get a wide receiver? Am I upset they didn't get Christian Watson? We'll see how well Christian Watson has a better chance of succeeding now with Aaron Rodgers than he had here with Justin Fields. That's just the honest to God truth. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that here he would have been a bust, but it would have probably taken longer. But now he's with one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. And they need him. So I'm sure he's probably at times going to flourish, and at times he's going to seem probably like a rookie. But still, I think the Bears did what they needed to do by fortifying their offensive line with a bunch of bodies. You know what I'm saying? At least you can look at Braxton Jones and Zachary Thomas as being guys that, they should definitely be getting a chance to get some tick or compete. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the center from Illinois, Doug Kramer, and the guard from Southern, Jatiri Carter, I don't know how they fit into this. Are they just depth or, for instance, with Jatiri Carter, they envision him. He's played guard and tackle, but they envision him particularly sticking to tackle. I believe the area scouts did mention that. So it was cool. I love how they had the scouts come out and talk. You know what I'm saying? I thought it really gave them an opportunity to shine and an opportunity to perhaps get other opportunities in elevated positions because you come out there and talk and people kind of get to know you that way in other organizations. I love the fact that he took 3 picks and made it into 8 on day 3. I mean, because you needed it. Listen, if they can scout well, we may be in a new era here, man. For real. If they can scout, they're not gonna hit on all these. I'm not talking about all these guys becoming players, but if they get 5 players out of this draft. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to be to the standard that we're going to hold Gordon and Brisker to, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe even Jones to a degree. But if you can get 5, and those are 3 guys, so all I'm saying is 2 more. If you get 5 or 6 players out of this draft, man, you out of a 6 pick draft initially, you did your damn thing, man. Especially when most of these players were in the later round. So I'm looking forward to training camp. I'm looking forward to hear when these guys put on pads, particularly these offensive linemen. I'm looking forward to how nasty it's going to get. You know what I'm saying? I want to see some scuffling with those defensive linemen. I want to see guys out there fighting, you know, not hurting anybody, but getting angry and trying to implement their will on the defensive line and trying to let the defensive line know, you know, I'm here to make a name for myself. So I think Ryan Poles did a good job. Could it have been better? Perhaps, depending on the value. He didn't have the value that I had on receiver, and he kind of told us that going into this situation. Anybody that's upset, I understand. It's going to still take a minute for us to know who and where these guys are. But, I mean, you don't have to let these guys off if they did something that you don't like. All right? That's just the truth of the matter. You know, so we'll find out. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, we can quibble about players, but ultimately everybody's just, except maybe the first rounders, they're just a helmet with a name. We don't know who's going to be good from this draft whatsoever. And certain prospects get people excited, but that doesn't mean anything. We all know that. Really, when it comes into a draft, especially this situation, a brand new regime, brand new change, and we've seen such an emphasis on turning over the roster immediately. I think it was more so what makes sense with what the Bears are doing. First of all, they didn't trade up for anything in terms of giving up anything big, especially those 2 second-round picks to get in the first, or maybe some kind of package of the second and the third, whatever. We all knew that they needed picks, so trading up just didn't make any sense. They did that. They need some starters for sure. And with those 2 second-rounders, that's the one we looked at as you need some starters. Well, they sure as hell need some starters in that secondary. That's for damn sure. I mean, you could argue offensive line is more important. You can argue receiver is more important because you need to know what Justin Fields is as a quarterback. And I can listen to all those arguments. But end of day, you weren't going to do anything for your offense or your football team, especially in a division with Aaron Rodgers. Maybe the Lions don't have a quarterback, but Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, you need to be able to stop the passing game. And Kindle Vildor as my second option at corner was not going to fly. And we even talked about this. I'm not sure if we talked about on air or off air, but that nickel corner they got from the Ravens, who's Mr. Injury prone, there's just not enough there.
Tavon Young.
There's just not enough there to make you think, oh, secondary's fine. And then who is that other safety? Of course, I've heard people say you can go out and get Tayshaun Gibson again or somebody like that and just pay him. What has that really done for you, though? Right. Ever since they've lost Adrian Amos, it's clear the secondary hasn't been as good. And I don't want to put it all on the Adrian Amos, but why was it so good? He was very reliable in coverage. He was very good at coming up and tackling, things that Eddie Jackson is not great at. And I love, you mentioned that with Eddie Jackson. I love the type of player that they got in Brisker. He is a emotional leader type. He is a captain type. Maybe just his energy, his wanting to play the game rejuices up Eddie Jackson and gets him back into that mold maybe a little bit. Seeing a young gun go out there really showing off, maybe that gets him a little bit more motivated to be that type of guy. Like, hey, hold on, I'm the best safety on this team. And really, that would be an amazing development because if you got Eddie Jackson rolling, plus the strong safety, plus the Kyler Gordon kid, okay, you got a little bit of a squad in that secondary. If they can stay healthy, if you can stay healthy, you got a little bit of a squad in that secondary. And now Matt Eberflus has some stuff to do,
especially with those linebackers. You know, like you coverage. Listen, if these kids hit coverage-wise, this team is going to be hard down the line. You know what I'm saying? And like, I like the traits that they have. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, that these are guys with
Dogs,
fluid
playmakers
hips,
around
not
the ball. Did
not
you
two
hear about how
dimensional.
Kyler Gordon was what was he? A professional ballroom dancer for a large chunk of his childhood?
No, a competitive dancer
Competitive dancing. That's right.
lyrical ballet, hip hop. Did you see when he was? This is when he was in the Washington uniform. He kind of walks and does a backflip. Did you see? Like it's one of those like it seems like one of those preseason things where they taking videos and he's not even like running. He just you could tell it's a dance move, like some because all I think about is him crumping. I don't know, like I feel like he was crumping his ass off, right? And it was one of those moves where and then he just busts a backflip, dude. It's like, damn, kid. You freaky like that with your athleticism, and his swag is high, right?
Supposedly his foot speed a little bit slower. That's why he dropped, but he plays a lot faster than the tape. And in this scheme, he seems like the perfect fit. And I love all these guys that they got in the secondary are going to come up and hit your ass, which is what the Bears really need. When you look at just stopping the run, which has been a problem ever since Vic Fangio has left, it's not only just controlling your gap, it's also getting an entire group to the ball. You have to flow. There has to be constant attack. And far too often, we've seen too many guys quit or take horrible angles or not really come up with a violence to them to try to shut someone down. So I really didn't have too much of a problem with either of those first two picks. And like I said, you got some starters. Besides that, the Velus Jones, we got to see how that one goes. But I think you hit it on the head. When you have a run of 6, 7 receivers in the first round, and then you have that second run in the second round, we talked about this is a very deep class, but you're not going to get just a bona fide starter type when you're talking about the 13th, 14th, 15th best receiver in the class. I mean, this isn't an all-time greatest of greatest wide receiver classes. It's just not realistic to expect. So if they can get a guy that can definitely help them in different gadgetry ways, maybe as a running back, as a receiver, definitely as a returner, that's still, I think, a very positive pick. And it really doesn't take much, right? If he can do some really solid things as a special teamer, kick returner, and be a deep threat that's somewhat consistent, I think you're really happy with the third rounder in that kind of mold, at least early on in his initial season. And then you can see where you go from there. Then when you're talking about the day 3 guys, like you said, having all those extra picks was just fantastic. Needed bodies. And it's not that you just needed bodies, you needed the right bodies. You needed guys that you scouted, the leadership intangibles that you talked about. There's a lot of those guys. We even mentioned on our draft previewing, I want them to take some shots at some guys with some high ceilings that you can develop. And that's what you got with the tackle Braxton Jones from Southern Utah. That's a guy that could potentially be a real dude down the road. Now, he's a 5th rounder, and he needs a lot of work. He's very raw. So we don't know. We don't want to go too crazy. But in terms of his arm length, in terms of what he's shown and how little football he's had, but he's grown into, there's some reason to be optimistic there that you can really develop something. And then I see Dominique Robinson, and I'm just thinking, do you got yourself a Mark Anderson? Because if you throw Robert Quinn on one side, Travis Gibson on the other side, and then maybe you got this guy, Dominique Robinson, as this kind of like part-time pass rusher, and you mentioned it before, you got the linebackers right now with the speed and the flow. We got the defensive line, maybe don't have quite the 3 technique you want, but if you at least identified that player, and now you've got a couple edge rushers, you've rebuilt the secondary. I mean, this defense might just be solid or maybe just up on the rise, depending on how well some of these younger players can play.
I think it will be up on the rise. And also, and this could be pie in the sky, I still feel like there's a chance Larry Ogunjobi can end up on this team.
Me too.
And not getting the 3 technique in the draft makes me feel even more like, what are they waiting? Like, you just Justin Jones in it that hard? You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I still wonder if it's like, you just get healthy enough by training camp and we'll revisit this or whatever, because then you're really talking. You know what I'm saying? If
Right.
you get that guy coming in here disrupting the middle, you know what I'm saying? Like if you can get that, we're cooking with grease. I like what the defense is doing right now. You know what I'm
Me
saying?
too.
And next year they better invest in offense and also still with the second wave guys that you were talking about who may get cut. We'll see if somebody, you know what I'm saying, old X that can stay healthy can come in and benefit this team for a year or two. But as a whole, a first draft, I think they did I think they did a real good job. Because this is the thing. Do you want them to swing on guys that they truly don't believe in to make it seem like they're placating to us?
Right.
You really don't. You really, like if we're running the draft as fans, then we're in some trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a reason why we're on the sidelines and they're in the Hallis Hall. Hopefully. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Hopefully. So
But I mean, to throw on to that, what you just said, at what point since Ryan Poles has been hired has it not seemed like everything's been very tactically planned?
mm-hmm.
Rush to turn over the roster, that wasn't by accident. All these 1-year deals for all these free agents, that's not an accident. I think second wave, third wave free agency is key to this team. And I want to believe that Ryan Poles had that as a part of his plan. Now, you can't count on which veterans are going to be there. But if, let's say, you felt that we can get our defense up to par and you feel okay with Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum giving them this year to see what they've got, you do have Cody Whitehair, you got Lucas Patrick. We can't be the same city that was saying, oh, we're bragging about our right guard and Kyle Long, and right guard doesn't even matter. And now it's like the end of the world if we don't have a right guard. They'll find a right guard. Let's not pretend all of a sudden
they better have in this draft, Ryan. He better be there right now. All right. Name a name. Pick a name. All right. Because he better be there. All right.
But worst case, you don't think there's going to be like a Ryan Bates or somebody on the free market that you can get somewhere of some kind as a guard? I think there's going to be something.
Dude, I hope the guard is in-house now.
Me too.
With all these offensive, and I meant from if Zachary Thomas, Braxton Jones, and Zachary Thomas at one point if one of them can end up playing, and it may not be this year, OT, and Larry Borum's the future guard. You know what I'm saying? But the right guard better be in-house with all these offensive linemen that they brought in here over the weekend. All right. He better be in that piece, man. Because now, what are we doing there? You know what I'm saying?
I know, right?
Goodness, we gonna have all this old lineman and none of you guys can play right now. God damn!
We only got tackles, no guards. Right. We need a right guard.
35 feet of ineptitude. None of you guys can play right. God, so
I know. Does this mean you got to get rid of like Sam Mussaver because he can only play center type?
Yeah,
I don't know, but I mean, really, in terms of the offense, obviously you'd want a more bona fide offensive line, but we don't know if Larry Borum and Tevin Jenkins aren't good. I mean, Tevin Jenkins, if he's your right tackle, everybody was screaming how great he's going to be as a right tackle in the league. Obviously, the back surgery hurts that, but we don't know if the back surgery is going to stop him. There's definitely players that have had success with back surgery. There's plenty that have not. I don't want to make it seem like nothing, but we can't just rule out, oh, Tevin Jenkins is done because he had back surgery. That's not exactly how it works. And Larry Borum, all I keep hearing is how amazing this dude's feet is, how big he is, and how athletic. Seems like you can figure out a spot for him. And if you can just find another receiver, like you said, an X of some kind that you can rely on, and you have Darnell moving, and then some of these younger players and Velus Jones coming out of the slot, I don't want to make it seem like this team is like complete or doing anything, but they're much better right now after a full roster turnover than I kind of expected them to be at this point. I don't know if you kind of feel that way.
I mean, listen, I always thought Byron Pringle was going to end up here, and it was something that I wanted. And you're telling me that, all right, none of these, but Darnell Mooney maybe has a chance to be a world beater. Byron Pringle should add to this roster. All right. Equiminius St. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe more opportunity. He was playing with Aaron Rodgers, and it wasn't all the way up. So we'll see how that goes. And Bayless Jones, if he's gonna come in there and be like a player similar in a red uniform with a gold helmet, and it kind of shortens the field and it kind of simplifies the offense for Justin. I'm intrigued by seeing it. You still need to make sure that after this season, you bring in a top flight receiver. And if you want to do that, and I think this is another thing too that people don't realize. They knew their offense wasn't ready. One, the team isn't ready. That's why you have all these cats signed to 1-year deals. Like, we want to keep putting the cart to a degree in front of the horse, where it's not time yet. You know what I'm saying? Especially for the grade that Ryan Poles and his scouts had on some of those receivers that we were going crazy about. I mean, clearly, this is like I said. Look, I said Alec Pierce is a 3rd-round pick, right? So other teams jumped and grabbed him in the 2nd. So our team should have done that same thing too, basically, is what we're saying, and not taking Brisker. Like, if you are being true to your board, all right. But now when that board, I'll say this, when that board is flipped on the offensive side and that receiver falls to you that you had going in the 1st round and now he's there in the 2nd, you better pick his ass up too. So it better be a two-way street. And I mean, we're talking about offensive linemen, so I would think in Cunningham and Poles, I would think it would be like that. So it's just, I mean, it was a deep draft when it came to receiver, but I feel like we keep neglecting that there was a reason those receivers were in the 2nd round. There were warts on those guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, there were warts on majority of those guys that went in. Not to say that some of them weren't less wartier than the others, but they had warts. And compared to Gordon and Brisker, they really didn't have warts like that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, Gordon.
And then what would you have done if you got, let's say, Pickens with that 2nd-round pick? You'd be hurting right now for a safety or a corner, one or the other.
Right. So again, I'm not. It doesn't mean we don't value receiver, but clearly they didn't have the same value on those other receivers. Again, I would have liked to see. Just so I could be mad at Ryan Poles. I would have liked to have seen if they passed up on Christian Watson, if their value on Christian Watson. You know what I'm saying? If the value was that low. Because, I mean, clearly, you would have to think it was him or nothing, right? When it comes to 2nd-round receiver. I mean, then when I say it could have been nothing, it may have been that they didn't view him as valuable as Gordon or Brisker, but I still would have liked to know, because it would have given us a clearer indication of what way that they choose. I guess they did give us a clear indication in the way we're drafting 2 defensive players, but I would have liked to know to see if they had
another thing that I think is important to remember here, and Ryan Poles talked about this quite a few times. This is not something that I don't think other Bears GMs haven't done in the past either, but it's a factor to consider. One of the reasons why the Baltimore Ravens were looked at as such an amazing draft with like Hamilton and Lindenbaum is because they got the best player at their position, and there was a gap between the next best.
Right.
When you have to look at that sometimes with your board. If we go Pickens here, but we feel Bayless Jones is basically the same guy, just maybe a little bit less, and let's even say there's a player less. But when we talk about Brisker or Gordon, that there's a big gap down, that puts an extra value on those 2 players versus Pickens, because you still have a chance to get a Pickens player. But you don't have a chance to get a Gordon or a Brisker if you don't get them now.
Great point. All right. Well, that's basically Ryan and my draft recap. We can't wait. We'll be back next week to kind of talk about some of those intro interviews that are happening. I believe this Thursday they're going to be here. Can't wait to hear about these guys at camp and rookie mini camp. I'm getting a little bit excited, man. I mean, I need a little football break, just a little bit.
Right. Especially Bulls just run out of town. Both teams terrible at baseball right now. Just
Dylan Cease was dealing. Dylan Cease was dealing today.
Dylan Cease was dealing today. Yes, for sure.
Shout
the Sox are going to turn it around, but just right now it's rough.
Yeah, totally. It sucks. All right. Anyway, we'll be back next week with sports again. We always appreciate you taking some time out to hang out with us.